Hello and welcome back to continuing live coverage courtesy of WFR Live TV of the opening day of the second round of the 2026 BNL Karting Series season. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, the championship commentator up here in the commentary box overlooking pretty much the entirety of the circuit, which measures just over 1,366 metres, 14 turns, runs in a clockwise direction. Well, we are getting set and ready for our first pre-final of the day, and it's going to go to Mini and Mini Rookie. So for those wondering, the live timing link is in the chat and has been pinned to the top. There is Day in Habits, who took the win in the qualifying heat earlier on. There you see alongside him is going to be Austin Aman in the 121 with the AO underneath his race visor, race helmet visor. So let's take you through the starting grid for the 10-minute plus an additional lap pre-final here at Malienbrühl for this first. Ahead of Josh Cook, the championship leader coming into this round of the season. Austin Aman and August Lickerbo-Lingzo round out row 2 ahead of Teddy Murphy, Ray and Townsend, Milo de Carlsmaker, Charlie Page, Arthur Farrow, Henry Moyat. They round out the top 10. Arthur Bowers followed by Maria Roberto round out your top 12 ahead of Jayan Prakash, Malte Holm, Zain Sofooglu, Chloe Malin Sorensen from Denmark, Arlo Gamble, Kai Suri, Ryan Rampadarath and Ryder Jiong. Now post-race, Zain Sofooglu had a penalty for front bumper out of position. Chloe Malin Sorensen got the tram lines with either one or two wheels. Unfortunately, there was a 2026 of the BNL Karting Series sporting regulations. So Ryder Jiong, the youngster from Australia, was excluded post-session. But let's give you a reminder of the top 3 of the season opener at Ostrikor for Mini and Mini Rookie. So with regards to the top 3, well, I know for a fact that it is a KR Sport 1-2 in the fact of Josh Cook leading the standings, Maria Roberto in second. Arlo Gamble, the defending Mini Rookie champion from last year, leads the standings in what is a very, very close top 3. So a bit more grey cloud cover up ahead over the circuit, which has seen many a driver come through its halls, including 2009 Formula 1 and 2018 Super GT GT500 champion, the man known simply as Jenson Button. He's raced here along with a whole host of others, including 7-time Formula 1 world champion Lewis Hamilton and that same accolade, the legendary Michael Schumacher. So the drivers anticipation is palpable. As the drivers will head into the tram lines, it's revs up, lights on. We go green for 10 minutes in the pre-final. And to the outside, tries to sweep Joshua Cook, but Austin Aman in the 121 from Sam Pollock leads the field into turn number 3 here on lap number 1. Oh, and a big moment there. Straight into the tyre barriers. I'm wondering if that might have been Arthur Farrow in the 124. Accidentally got caught out. So that is a real shame. Going to be Malte Holm in the 120. In the pre-final has come to a very so yellow flags at Marshall Post 4. So no overtaking at that point on the circuit will be permitted. So looks like in the opening sector as well. So Arthur Farrow and Multiholm out of the race. Meantime, for P2. August Nicobolingzo has got through Jayan Prakash, running with Sam Pollock Racing. Dean Habits took command of the qualifying. Exactly the same here in the pre-final. And Austin Amon sweeps to the inside. So just coming up to 7 minutes. Fielded, here comes championship leader to the inside, Josh Cook, through on Austin Amon as we start lap number 4 in earnest. The dark clouds circling around the circuit here at Marienborg. And Josh Cook puts the new fastest lap of the race in the pocket, 59.859 in the 175. Dayan Habits is close behind the two Brits up front. We head into... now, just for those people watching at home, we are still having issues here in the locality, reference the internet. So, apologies for that. We are recording the footage as well, I've been duly informed by our broadcast team behind the scenes. So apologies for the inconvenience. We are doing the best that we can to work with it under the circumstances. So we appreciate your 1 minute and 50 seconds plus an additional lap still to go in this pre-final for Mini and Mini Rookie. And again, another fastest lap in a row for Joshua Cook. 59.734 for the 175. Dayan Habits trying to see if he can get through. But the Downs Racing driver unable to make the opening fastest sector of the race so far. 19.434 seconds. So unfortunately out of the race, Mila de Karlsmaker, Arthur Farrow and Malte Holm. Halfway through the race we are now, 50%. $59.710 as he hunts down the 175 of Josh Cook down into Shimanda. Drivers that have made the moves up the order. Roddy Jeong and Arlo Gamble up 9 in 7 places apiece. Royder now up into 4. Into Piff Paff. Into Escargot they go here on lap number 6. And it was not that much between the top 3, just over 0.3 of a second once we completed lap 5. Up the hill we go again. crucial with how the race plays out over the next few moments. The Inhabits in P3, however, sets the new fastest lap of the race. 59.620 for the 131. Teddy Murphy is trying to catch them, but he's a little bit. He's about half a second off of The Inhabits' outright pace, with the top two running in the 59.7s. The gap between third and fourth now stretches to nearly 2.2 seconds as they go up the hill once again. 3 minutes to go. 7 laps completed. Habit starting to lose a little bit of ground to the two behind. There's a little bit further back, a 3-wide exchange. But still, this is where the battle really is parlay. Looking a little bit. Woglu has made up 7 places. Now make that 8 as he's got through on Charlie Page for P7 in the number 54. So, Woglu running with the support of Borusan Automotive Motorsport. So the very resplendent, bright baby blue, or cyan blue if you want to call it, adorning the chassis. It's going to be, at the rate these drivers are going, new fastest lap by the race leader. Josh Cook, 59.534. Gap 0.42 of a second between first and third. So there you have it, another fastest lap. So we could be in maybe for another 2 plus an additional. So we're probably looking at maybe another 3 laps, including this one still to go. Down into Chemin de Fer go the race leaders. And you cannot separate the top 3 at the moment. You could probably put an A5 sheet of paper on Cook, Oman and Habits. The driver that is now in 4th position, Teddy Murphy, who is 3.5, nearly 3.5 seconds behind this battle. The top trio have started to run away with things quite early. They're going to be tight on time, so a minute to go when they cross the line. So effectively, that puts us on 2 laps remaining. .59.503. Josh Cook opens up the radiator flap fully on the 175 Cosmic from KR Sports down into Chemin de Fer. Be completed by the end of the race when the checkered flag flies on the start-finish straight. So through out of the final corner, last lap board is prepared, and it will it show? It well, it probably won't. So it looks like we're going to have another lap, so that's going to put us... It was literally nip and tuck between Josh Cook crossing the line and us starting the final lap of the race, but they are still going at it. The gap between the top 3 and 4th, which is now occupied by August Likkeberg Lingsø from Denmark, who's taken the place of, well, from Teddy Murphy, well, yeah, from Teddy Murphy, who's now about a 10th behind the Dane. So, last lap board will be Cook. 1 for P2. But all Josh Cook has got to do is hold on. Final. And that will help him with a significant haul of points. So just a handful of corners remain. And it's into the right-hander here at turn number 12. Up the hill for the final time. And in the pre-final, it's the 175. Josh Cook that picks up the win. And the top three across the line covered by just 0.46 of a second. Lingzo, P5. Murphy, Sofuoglu up into P6. Oh, what a dynamite drive from the youngster from Turkey in the number 54. Finishing P6, having started on the inside of row 8. Rayan Townsend, Arthur Bowers, Charlie Page and Maria Roberto round out your top 10. Arlo Gamble finishes 11th, having started 20th. From 23rd and last on the grid, Ryder Jeong up 11 spots to P12. Jayan Prakash, Henry Meyer, Maxime Ball, Chloe Malling Sorensen, Ryan Rampadarath, Evan van Midderdorp, Kai Suri and Ada van Biljanov round out the finishers. Unfortunately, De Karlsmaker, Farrow and Holm eliminated on the very, very first lap and did not take any further part in the race. Oh, well, there we see Louis Radcliffe on your right and Kean onto the dummy grid as we are set and ready for our 10-minute plus an additional lap pre-final for DD2 and DD2 Masters. So here is your starting grid for the pre-final on Saturday, following on from the qualifying heat this morning. Jort van Pepin Riedman on the front row, Nicolas Guillaume and Theo Lemoigne on row 2. Ralph van der Pavet joined by Len Nys on row 3. Yannick Jacobs will have Christophe Capitan to his outside. Jim Ringelberg, unfortunately post had the iPad of doom on it, which basically meant when the clips were in, bumper was out of position. 5-second time penalty. And Theo Lang disqualified post qualifying heat for a technical those out there that don't understand non-conformity convented the technical regulations, and thereby the scrutineers would then pass on the message that that cart would have to be excluded as it did not meet the technical specifications as per the RMC global regulations that are organised through Rotax. DD2 and DD2 Masters drivers. So we have gone to green, and it is Jort van Wyk his way up from 6th on the grid and runs P3 ahead of Nicolas Guillaume as they head through Escargot on the opening tour. Dive to the inside of the second part. That was a good move on the 481 by the 433. Sorry, it's actually the 417 on the 481. So Len Noyes chasing down Jort van Wyk for the race lead. After the opening lap, Len Noyes just under 0.3 of a second behind. So Len Noyes on the opening lap alone has jumped up the order by 4 spots. Difficult start for Yannick Jacobs as he finds himself way back behind Jim Ringelberg to the tune of nearly 2.9 seconds. So the man from Germany experiencing some problem of some kind, and his opening sector was a 19.5 on that particular occasion. So the drivers making their way through towards turn 12. Guillaume to the inside of Rietman. Lemoine near over the curbs. And now we'll try another assault here at neatly and on the sweet spot. As Van der Pava to the inside of Lemoine. And that has allowed Christophe Capitan to mug the pair of them. Ringelberg nearly had a front. Nice, pulling away from the rest of the crowd and getting away to have their own battle. So Jort van Wyk continues to lead as we are on the latter section, the latter sector. Lap itself on lap 3. And Van Wyk is still going to lead the way as they come up the hill. And between him and Len Noyes, the gap is now 0.2 and closing. He just needs to play the waiting game as they go into turn 3. Len Noyes, new fastest lap, 54. He entered kart. Will be satisfied with a second place finish. Obviously he worked his way up to P6 after a difficult qualifying for the man from Belgium. So they now make their way up through turn 12, through into the chicane once again, and Van Wyk seems to be able to stretch the legs, but Noyes just catching up in the slipstream out of turn 14. So the Belgian trying to put a run on the Dutchman. And then Noyes, another new fastest lap of the race, 54.850. 10th and a half behind after 4 laps. It looks like Yannick Jacobs has withdrawn from the race. The 401 from Germany for Kraft Motorsport is out, as we will now have 9 runners and riders in the DD2 and DD2 Masters side of things. Jim Ringelberg finds himself down in P2 in the class, and a couple of places behind Christophe Capitan at this moment. But Len Noyes not hanging about, but also showing that patience as a racing driver can bring you virtues, can bring you good luck. Capitan sets the fastest lap of the race down in 5th position, 54.562. It's always quite interesting to look at driving styles of individuals, especially with Jort van Wyk just parking it on the racing apex every single lap, every single corner, using a little bit of brake, dabbing the throttle, get a little bit of modulation, help the rear tyres spin up a little bit better. But Len Nyes, it's not a case of if, it's a case of when does that take place? When does he manage to get that move? Well, the gap between our second place runner, Len Nyes, and our third place runner, Nicolas Guillaume, the gap is just over 1 second and closing. So 3.5 minutes remaining on the counter. Up the hill. Not much between Van Wyk and Nyes. 0.186 of a second as they hurtle their way down towards turn number 3. But Van Wyk holding on to the race lead. And it's not by much, less than a quarter of a second between the top two. In this race is now dropped into 6th position behind Kevin Dietmann and Ralf van der Pavert. But still, with just over 2.25 minutes to go, Van Wyk keeping Nyes at bay. Guillaume running his own race solo, a further 1.3 seconds back in 3rd position. Ralf van der Pavert in the meantime has got through on Pevin Reitman for 4th place. And he's leading the train with Capitan. The overall top 8 to the inside. Nice little move on Pevin Dietmann by Christophe Capitan, the driver with RM Concept. And Ringelberg fancies a little bit of a nibble at the moment whilst we speak. So this timer is rapidly counting down. So is there going to be a little bit of drama before the race's end? I hope not. So effectively just before the turn of the hour will be time for these drivers to take a well-needed respite, get some hydration down their neck, and get themselves composed for the finals later on today. Next time around we will be close to, or the timer comes down to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's it. Time is up. Last lap board is in the air. But Van Wyk has tried to do what he can. Len Nyes has come back from from a difficult qualifying appearance here for. He's made it count. Let's not forget he started on the outside of the third row. And probably the fact that Thijs van Dijk was maybe talking to himself saying, I really need to get this win. I really need to. So, Glenn Noyes takes the win after what was 12 laps of racing, ahead of Jort van Wijk, who takes P2, nearly 6/10 adrift. Nicolas Guillaume rounds out the top three ahead of Ralph van der Pavert, with Christophe Capitan taking his first win of the weekend, rounding out your top five. Theo Lemoigne, Jim Ringelberg, Pepin Reitman and Theo Lang round out the finishers. Unfortunately for Yannick Jacobs from Germany, the 401 would only pit after the opening lap. Now, whether there was a physical ailment or a technical issue for the man from Kraft Motorsport, well, we'll see how he gets on with the final for day one a little bit later on here at Marienborg. So here is your starting grid for the pre-final for Sunday for Junior Rotax. Cian Bernard starts on pole position ahead of Finley Lines. Riley Morrow on P3 ahead of Justin Fonk, with Louis Radcliffe and Sebastian Clark rounding out the top 3 rows. Then it'll be Lieke van Berkel and Finn Albert Jorgensen on row 2. The next row will be Matthias Verreken and Leon Herbos, then Bruce Rambo and Didi de Dale. Nathan Lequihot, Luan Seidel, Kai Clark, George Desmé, Lionel Muguia, Yanis Courage, Dion Braque, Max Bogsal, Augustin Hanik, Ilan van der Berge, Loris Biehon Mousset, and Bashko Rares, Klaus Hans, Anton Hausschild Christensen, Charlie Kitely, Lucien Smith, Thibaut Mercier, and we've got the likes of Al Friend, Jensen Short, Trent Van Malik and Harry Taylor who bring up the rear of the field. So the field will make its way up the hill. Revs up, lights on. We are green and racing for 10 minutes in the Junior Rotax pre-final. And straight away the gloves are off, the elbows are out, and the knives attached to said elbows are well and truly sharpened. Finley Lines trying to go toe-to-toe with Riley through in the meantime. But Cian Bernard and Riley Morrow lead the way. I imagine that for the likes of Justin Fonk, Louis Radcliffe are trying to make up some hay whilst the sun shines up above and then peaks back behind the cloud. Up the hill we go once again. The lead gap now is just over 0.28 of a second between our Sam Pollock Racing 1-2. Cian Bernard ahead of Riley Morrow as we head into turn 2. It's not going to be easy for some of these drivers. They really want to make moves, but sometimes, as I said earlier, it's a case of how compact this track is here at Marienborg. You've got to use patience as a virtue. You've also got to try and wait your turn to see if you can make a move. Will it work 100%? No 75 or 80% calculations by drivers. It's got to be split second. It's got to be instinctive of what they feel is the right call. After 2 minutes, Bernard now has a lead, and that has now gone up to nearly half. So again, just wanting to see how these drivers are going to make the best of this, but closing in on Riley Morrow as we've got a black and white warning flag out for Sebastian Clark. Finley Lines trying to get through on Riley Morrow. Once he does that, he'll break the deadlock between himself and the 222 into turn 1. On cue, lines up the inside through for P2. Nice little move there from the 281 with that very distinctive, great Kai Clark, however, who's been moving up the order, well, 3 places that is, up to P12 from the inside of row number 8. There's a little bit of close quarter wheel scrubbing. Still the battle lines. Right, someone's had a bit of a moment at the back end. George Desmay, who I think has managed to get circulating again, was just coming out of turn number 4. But again, Lines just trying to see if he can make a way through on Morrow, and that is proving easier than thought. Well, it is now easier than thought, because the car in front, the 281 from KR Sport, is the orange, blue, black and white colouring of SP of Sam Pollock Racing. So there goes the move. The opportunity presented itself just at the halfway point. Finley Lines gets through on Kean Bernard for the race lead here in the pre-final. Finn Albert Jorgensen, who's been on the move, he started in 8th position. Has dropped a few places, now back up to 14th with the fastest lap of the race of 56.181. So, Anticipate in the 254 will get a warning flag from race control, as I said earlier. But this is a bit of a cat and mouse game at the front end of the field. It's not going to be easy for these drivers, because they've got to do whatever they can to put their best foot forward. 6 minutes down, 4 to go, plus an additional lap, as Lines continues to, at the minute, hold on to the race lead. He only took it about a lap or so ago. Fastest lap of the race, Finn Albert Jorgensen, 56.137. But still, the race goes on here in the pre-final for Junior Rotax as the seniors look on ahead of their pre-final. Through into T1, change of lead, Bernard through on Lines. So SPR, Sam Pollock Racing versus KR Sport, and now Finley Lines finds himself to be a little bit of the KR Sport meat in a Sam Pollock Racing sandwich. Sebastian Clark now in 15th spot, having dropped 9 places. Has been slowly and surely just crawling up. It's not always about going for lunges every time you see a window of opportunity. It's more a case of, what can I do to make it work so I can get this problem worked out. However, that gap looks a little bit more than 2/10, so it's 8/1000 quicker. Max Bogsell with the fastest overall final sector out of anybody. Fastest lap of the race, as I said, Sebastian Clark. Albert Friend, who has been to a insurance with a discussing something that may have happened down on track. Can he get onto pole position for the final? That's the big thing. Now this is where the dogfight starts. It was Finley just with the hair swept across the forehead. Still, it's one of those cat and mouse games that you can't really understand until you have to move forward. Right, okay, 2 laps to go. Drivers making their way up from turn number. Bernard defends against lines. 2 wheels on the grass to the inside at turn 2. He's just about made that work as lines. And now the dogfight begins. 10 seconds on the timer. Corner 4 out of 14 has just been negotiated down to Chemin de Fer. Bernard, a little bit sideways as the tail end step back under braking to the right hand side and through into Escargot they go. So due to trying to continue to get towards 12 laps of racing lines, tight to the inside to cover off Bernard. There's a gap. Bernard is trying to make it work. He's got Murrow behind him. He's got Radcliffe behind him. There's Lieke van Berkel and Matthias van Aken of all people. Van Aken trying to go to the inside to steal multiple positions. He gets 2. Make that 3. Oh, little bit of a touch between him. And I think that might have been Louis Radcliffe. Kean Bernard holding on as we're on the final lap. Down to turn 4 for the last time. Through into the 90 left. Down to Chemin de Fer at breakneck speed, over 100 kilometres an hour. Where is Bernard going to park it? He goes defensive on lines. Good call there by the 282. Into Piff Paff. And then into Escargot for the final time. But out of the final right-hander, up the hill we go. Kean Bernard wins the pre-final by a couple of kart lengths ahead of Finley Lines. Lieke van Berkel up the order from 5th. Louis Radcliffe, Matthias van Aken, they round out the top 6 position. Putting his money where his mouth is. Finishing after 12 laps, the race winner for the pre-final by 0.139 seconds. Kai Clark, Justin Fonk, Leon Herbos and Finn Albert Jorgensen ran out the top 10. And that's ahead of DD2 Dale, Bruce Rambo, Sebastian Clark, Albert Friend, Nathan Lecure, who round out your top 15. Laurie Speron-Mousset, Rares Pascu, Jensen Chalk, Lucien Smith and Harry Taylor round out the top 20. Luan Seidel, Charlie Kitely, Lionel Munguia, Yannis Gohaj, Augustin Hanik, Klaus Hans, Dion Bracker, Ilan van Offenberger, Vandenberger, Thibaut Mercier, Max Bogsal and Georges Desmay round out the 31 finishers with Anton Hauschel Christensen and Trent van Melk. not taking the start, it looks like. Okay, right. We've got a bit of a development because we've got a kart stopped. And that is Max Sider. Oh, no. Max Siderski in the 397 from SP Motorsport. This is his second running in the BNL as a senior driver, and he's trying to get the engine fired, and trouble has happened again. Wondering whether it's possibly HT lead or spark plug. Number 3, starting grid, and I am going to include Max Siderski on this. Vince van der Holle and Lars Lambers on the front row. Thijs van Wijk and Macaulay Bishop row 2. Max Siderski is not taking any part in this. He was due to start on the inside of the row 3. Tino Sidler alongside. Bran van der Weken, Antoine Lemieux, Sverre Ubben, Boris Maximov and Lado Kohanidze due to start in the top 10. Then after that we would have Rafael Moore, Hugo Crasto, Arnaud Sabaha, Ryan Bourguignon, Kenneth van Mokerke, Bo Alrichs, then Koen Willems, Liam van Hekke, Elise Stolchamane, Tom Langlois, Hjalde Risgaard, Louis Oliver Gunther, Lucas Todder, Vic van Kampenhout, and Priam Lelang. So we are down to 29 drivers, I'm afraid. This is not how Max Siderski would have wanted the pre-finals to go. The engine cutting out on him and being unable to make it restart. However, we still have a race to run on the 18th of April 2026 for day 1, round 2. It's the pre-final for 10 minutes plus an additional lap. Is supposed to be, and that is going to have to be between Thijs van Wijk and Bran van der Weken. So revs up. Minutes and a storming start by Vince van der Holle. Thijs van Wijk gets through on Bran van and Lars Lambers heading down into turn 1. Macaulay Bishop is through. Tino Sidler is through, and there's contact going in through the infield, and hold on, and he gets pointed in the right direction. I cannot believe what I have just seen. Lars Lambers had a cat of 9 lives moment right about then, and I think that might have been with Antoine Lemieux underneath him. Yeah, because Lambers was forced out wide, went to the grass, and then all of a sudden, Lambers found himself riding the left side of the Canadian's kart. But my goodness me, that just goes to show the amount of skill. After the opening lap, Van der Weken leads. Now Bishop through at turn 2 on Van Wijk for P2. Turn 3, that's third for the man from Switzerland. Bran van der Weken, and the man on the move, he's just done purple sectors in sectors 2 and 3. GKS's hotshot, Sverre Ubben. In the 348, he's right on the back of the 6-kart train at the sharp end of the field. Antoine Lemieux, the Canadian, has got it going again and has started to chase down everybody in front. Fastest purple sector in sector 1 by the Canadian. Blink and you will miss every single second. Is down to the inside on Tino Sidler. Attempts to go Thijs van Wijk, who might go through, and they make contact once again. This is not how it's meant to be. Tino Sidler manages to, well, he only loses 1 position to Bran van der Weken, but Thijs van Wijk has dropped down to 6th position, and he's being chased down by Boris Maximov. Meantime, Macaulay Bishop right on the rear bumper. Belgium. So, Lars Lambers is out. Lucas Torder is out. Taze van Wyk has just gotten the black and white warning flag from race control. But my goodness, this pre-final, someone lit the fireworks fuse and it went off and exploded in multiple different directions. Oh, and we've had someone go off at turn 1. I've got a feeling that's going to be Sverre Ubben, possibly Boris van Haag. No, it's not Sverre Ubben, I think, as they come around in towards Chemin de Fer. But Macaulay Bishop so I'm wondering who that might be. It could be Bo Alris in the number 311 that has dropped like a stone. So up the hill we go. Once again, this is fast and frantic at its nature in Senior Rotax. Van der Halle, point in third, right on the heels of the reigning and defending BNL Karting Series and Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals Senior Rotax champion from last year, Macaulay Bishop. And Bishop knows this game very, very well. Priam Lelang, the man from Sweden in the 336, sets a new fastest lap of the race, 55.107. But still, with nearly half the race left to run, Boris Maximov in the 358 gets a warning flag from race control. He's right behind Bastien Mesnil and defending against Arnold Sabahat. Van der Weyken in a KR, well, he's in a Dan Holland Racing KR Sport sandwich at the minute. So he's got to look ahead. He's also got to look behind as well. New fastest lap of the race, 54.929 by the Netherlands, Taze van Wyk. As through goes Plan van der Weyken on Macaulay Bishop at Chemin de Fer. Here on lap 6. They bump over the curbing through the chicane. And there goes Ubben is sideways, loses a position to Van Wyk in the process. And here come the floodgates. There's Lemieux. There's also Verhaag. Up the hill they go. There could be an opportunity. And Verhaag is looking for an opportunity to get up the order. It might be easier said than done. So these drivers are still going absolutely full pelt. They are not lifting. They are going flat out to give themselves the best result possible. And that means grid for the finals later on today. Then it's the evening to reflect, reset, and get ready for a full day in the office tomorrow. Looks like Rafael Moreau has also become the latest casualty. Started in what was the outside of row number 6. Van der Halle in the meantime pulling away. He's nearly 1.2 seconds up the road from Van der Weyken and Bishop. The latter two battling over second place with 3 1/4 minutes on the timer, plus an additional lap remaining. Really doesn't need to look over his left shoulder that much. Maybe the odd glance from here or there. However, this is going to be rather crucial. What happens now? Of racing altogether. A flood of Rotax power roars its way across the start-finish line. And with the sun again starting to try and break through the cloud cover up above, there are a lot of grey clouds circling. But at the minute, the track is still absolutely bone dry. 17 degrees centigrade air temperature. That's approaching around about 67 Fahrenheit. But still, because of the fact that Van der Weyken and Bishop are battling, Van der Halen is able to keep that gap at around about a 1.1, 1.2 second advantage to the betterment for the 372 from Bouvin Power. So we're going to have 3 laps remaining. And Van der Halen is doing exactly what he needs to do. Keeping ahead of the rest of the competition. And Van Weyken, Bishop doing a very, very good, solid job to keep the car in P3 at the moment. But he would rather be up in second position because that would give him more points. However, Tino Sidler, the young senior from Switzerland in the 310, younger brother of coach. The pair of them respectively multi-time Rotax Max Challenge Switzerland champions and have represented the nation at the grand finals over the past few seasons. So 2 laps remain as Vince van der Halle is going to probably cross the line with just over 40 seconds to spare. Make that about 45 seconds. So 2 to go. Lap 11 out of 12 underway. And Bishop being closed in on by Sidler. And it was just under a tenth. And there goes Sidler through at turn 3. But he went a little bit wide. Bishop straight back through at 4. Great battle between the young drivers from the United Kingdom and Switzerland. Fair exchange between the pair. But Van Weyck is closing in. The timer now hits 0 on the clock. One more. Won the qualifying heat, and now look at Bishop on Sidler. Well, no, that's Van Weyck. Van Weyck was right in the wheel tracks of Sidler, and Sidler trying to keep the Dutchman at bay, but Sverre Ubben is right there with them. Anything could happen on the run down to Chemin de Fer for the final time. And representing Belgium is going to lead us on to the final few corners of the 12th and final lap of this pre-final for the senior Rotax division. 26 drivers set to complete this race out of 30, but it will be said that Vince van der Halle from Bouvin Power not only wins the qualifying heat, he comes up the hill for the final time. Van der Halle does the double qualifying heats and pre-final here at Marienburg, winning by nearly 0.6 of a second ahead of Bran van der Weyken, making it a Bouvin Power 1-2 as a big old... Oh, there was nearly a 4-wide exchange across the line. Vince van der Halle, your pre-final winner in seniors, ahead of Bran van der Weyken in 4th, ahead of Thijs van Weyck, Sverre Ubben, Boris Verhaag, Bastien Mesniel, Boaz Maximov, Vlado Kuhanice, rounding out your top 10. The man from Georgia pipping out and edging out Antoine Lemieux from Canada by just under a quarter of a second. Tom Lanois 12th, ahead of Charlie King, Hugo Grasto, Harry Freeman, Aldo Sabaha, Lisa Stolchamane, Vic Van Kampen out making out 11 places, not as much as Tom Lanois did when he finished 12th, having started 25th. Kenneth Van Mokerke, Ryan Bourguignon, Koen Willems, Priam Lelang, Louis Oliver Gunther, Bo Alrichs. Finishers. Unfortunately, we lost Raphael Mohor, Lars Lambers, Max Sidersky, and Lucas Storder in the senior pre-final. as you folks at home take a look at the highlights from the Senior Rotax pre-final. We're going to say goodbye for now, but join us just before quarter to the hour as we get ready for the finals here on day 1, round 2, BNL Karting Series 2026, live from Karting in Marienburg.